Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is December 13th and it's my weekly shop update. So it's nice and warm in here, but I've been spending a lot of time out in the cold working on my sawmill project. So this week was definitely one of those details week. I was out here quite a lot working on a lot of different things, but it doesn't look like I did a whole lot, which is kind of frustrating, but I know that I'm almost done, at least. So this week I added 2 more of the clamping mechanisms to the bed. I also added the rest of the blade guards, so I filled in the holes in the back side of the blade guards. I added the cap to that side. I added the door. I think didn't have that on last week. I added the door to this area here. And the only part of the blade guard that I still need to add is the piece that comes down here and guards the blade as it comes out from the wheel to the guide. And I'm leaving that off for now until I have the wheels aligned. I think one less thing in the way is going to make that process a little bit easier. I also added the belts to the motor just to make sure those belts are going to be the right size, and they are, so that's good to go. I still need to make a belt guard for that thing, but in theory that should be pretty quick. And yeah. Now the biggest thing I added this week is the tensioning mechanism, and that's around back here behind the idle wheel. So the tensioner just really consists of this hydraulic ram, and that just goes into this little mounting plate here, which I haven't bolted on yet. But it just slides in here. This kind of just holds it in position, and this is going to be pressing up against the this piece of angle here on the idle mount. And then on the back side, I have another piece of angle with holes drilled for bolts, a brace, and then this piece of pipe which just kind of just holds the end of the ram in position so it doesn't go anywhere. Now I bolted this thing on here because I want to be able to have the flexibility in the future to change it out. I do want to add a spring mechanism in here so that this thing has a little more give. If there's any stretch in the blade or if something gets between the blade and the wheel, the spring mechanism will have a little bit of flex to take up that little bit of extra tension. Once I have the blade on there, I'll be able to find the actual force that this thing takes to tension the blade. I have a tension meter for the blade, so I'll be able to pump the cylinder as much as it needs to apply the correct amount of tension to the blade. And at that point, I'll be able to calculate exactly how much pressure or how much pound force this cylinder is applying to that blade, so I can kind of figure out like how much pressure does it actually take. I'm guessing it takes around 2,000 pounds, but we'll see for sure. But I think this should hold. So since I had the idle mount off the saw this week, I went ahead and painted it, and I did a couple other things. You can see here I added some nuts here that I welded on. That'll allow me to use some bolts to adjust the in and out position of the wheel. That'll just make it a little bit easier and quicker for me to get those two aligned. I also added a set of 4 jack screws, 1 at each corner of the mount, and that'll allow me to use those screws to tip this thing to get the right angle, again, for tracking that blade. I was just going to go ahead and just shim it by trial and error, but I figured while I had it off, I might as well just drill those holes and tap them. It was pretty quick, and I figured anything that gets me to the finish line faster at this point is going to be better because it is freezing out here. I really don't want to be messing with it too much. So once I figure out the angle that I need, I'll figure out what size shim I need to shim this thing correctly and then lock down the mounting bolts, and it should be good to go. Now, even though this plate was oversized, I left it on there instead of cutting it off. I figured it's kind of a nice place to like put stuff, a little shelf, or maybe I'll put some cup holders here or something. I think that'd be kind of nice. So last week, Andy Klein asked me if this can be set using a mallet or a hammer like you could with the holdfast. And yeah, you can. So pretty easy to do. You're going to slide it up into position, and then a couple of taps with the hammer to set the screw into the log. And then to tighten it up, all you do is hit down here, and that's clamped. And then to unclamp it, you just have to hit the pipe fitting back that way. Can't tell if it's moving though. Not exactly the most convenient way to undo it. There we go. So it can be done. So at this point tomorrow, I'm actually going to get out here and just get this thing set up, get the wheels aligned, get a blade on there, get the guides set up as well, and hopefully do a test cut. At this point, I feel pretty comfortable with everything the way it is to try it out, make a slice on here, and we'll go from there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing if this thing actually works. Well, let's head back inside and take a look at some viewer projects. First is a table by Gary, and this is a very unconventional project for him. He used 5 different tints of blue to make the water running down the center of the table, and used many coats of epoxy with slight amount of blue dye added to create drips of water on the metal frame. He built up the drips like stalactites, dripping small amounts day after day until the drips elongated nicely. Next is an engagement ring box by Luke. The box is made from American walnut, and this is his first real woodworking project. It's all one solid piece of walnut. He used a router to remove the bulk of the middle of the body, and then a chisel to square up the edges. The lid is held closed by 4 tiny rare earth magnets. He made all the cuts on his miter saw and had to use a lot of masking tape to hold the pieces in place to keep his hands away from the blade, since this box was so small. And the most exciting part of all, she said yes. Next is the crib by Shawn. It's made from eastern red cedar and finished with shellac. To turn the tenons on the ends of the rails, he had to make a spring pole lathe. The rails started out as square stock, and he draw knifed them down to size and shape. There are 44 spindles and 16 oak pegs that he got from 1-inch stock, and shaped them with a draw knife and sized them using 3 large washers. Lastly this week is a toy box by Dane. He built this toy box for his grandson Knox. This is his first piece of furniture, and it's made from eastern red cedar. There are 36 hand-cut dovetails and 2 box joints on the lid trim. It's finished with 8 coats of shellac and 2 coats of paste wax. And you can check out more of Dane's work over on Instagram. So I'm going to spend tomorrow getting the mill all set up for the first time, and it's going to be a little bit on the bittersweet side. Sweet because I've been looking forward to that day for a long time, and bitter because it's going to be bitterly cold. I think tomorrow has a high of 5 degrees. That's Fahrenheit. So it should be very interesting. Should make for at least an entertaining video as I suffer in the cold. And before I forget, I want to say a big congratulations to Carl. He won the Wrangler Rigs giveaway. So big congratulations to him. I picked him randomly out of all of the comments left on the Blade Guides video. So thank you to everyone who left a comment and entered. Really appreciate all the comments. As you can see here in the shop, doing a little woodworking. Doing some surprise-ish Christmas gifts, so I'll share those in a couple of weeks. But I think that's about all I have for this week. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today, or anything here in my shop or out on the mill in the cold, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.